The Indiana Fever were supposed to become the biggest success story in basketball. You bring in Caitlin Clark, the most watched rookie in league history, ticket prices explode, TV ratings skyrocket, arenas sell out, and suddenly the entire sports world is paying attention to the WNBA. But instead of unity, fans are now seeing a civil war inside the franchise. And the center of the controversy is head coach Stephanie White, because what people are noticing isn't just strategy, it's tone, it's energy, it's body language. It's the difference in how certain players are celebrated versus how others are discussed publicly. And now fans believe they have the film evidence. Every time Kelsey Mitchell struggles, there's praise. Every time Caitlin Clark explodes offensively, the conversation suddenly becomes about the whole group. That contrast has become impossible for Fever fans to ignore. This isn't just about one press conference anymore. This is about leadership, franchise direction, and who this organization truly sees as the face of the team moving forward. Because if your generational superstar feels restrained instead of empowered, eventually the pressure inside that locker room becomes impossible to contain. And that's why this situation has become one of the most explosive stories in basketball right now. From the beginning, Stephanie White made one thing crystal clear. Kelsey Mitchell was central to the organization's future. Not important, not valuable, essential. And fans immediately noticed how emotionally invested White sounded whenever Mitchell's name came up. The praise wasn't casual coach talk. It sounded deeply personal, almost protective. That matters because in professional sports, language reveals hierarchy. When coaches repeatedly emphasize one player's value, teammates hear it, fans hear it, media hears it, and eventually the locker room feels it too. Mitchell absolutely deserves respect. She survived the difficult years of the Fever rebuild. She carried heavy scoring loads during losing seasons. She remained loyal while the franchise struggled near the bottom of the standings. But once Caitlin Clark arrived, expectations changed overnight. Now the Fever aren't rebuilding anymore. They're expected to contend. And that creates tension between the old leadership structure and the new superstar era. That's where this controversy exploded.
Yeah, I mean, Kelsey was our number one priority in free agency. Making sure that we're re-signing her, making sure that she understands how important she is to everything that we are going to do. She is the probably the one person on our roster that can just get a bucket, doesn't need any help. Right?
Get a buck, don't need no help. Don't need no help.
Right. I think our ability as a staff to move her around and utilize her strengths and her ability to get downhill. She doesn't need a screen, right? She doesn't need the two-man. The ability to get downhill.
Notice the language being used there. Number one priority. Can get a bucket whenever she wants. Doesn't need help. That's superstar language, and historically coaches only speak that way about players they completely trust to control the identity of a team. Think about legends across basketball history. When coaches talked about players like Diana Taurasi or Kobe Bryant, the messaging was always clear. This is the player the offense revolves around. Fans believe Stephanie White already made that decision internally, and they don't think Caitlin Clark was the choice. That perception alone is dangerous because franchises collapse when fans start believing politics matter more than production. And the moment fans think their superstar is being minimized, every press conference becomes evidence. The psychological side of this situation is what makes it so fascinating. Because elite scorers operate on rhythm, confidence, and freedom, especially perimeter creators like Caitlin Clark. Clark isn't just another rookie point guard, she's a high-volume offensive engine. Players like that need emotional trust from coaches. They need to feel empowered after mistakes, not restricted, and fans are comparing the reactions. When Kelsey Mitchell struggled early before catching fire later, the praise was explosive. The language was emotional, heroic, celebratory.
It's been incredible. I mean, Kels is just, she's one of a kind. She's somebody who can get a shot whenever she wants. She's somebody who can make plays, and she's very understated in how she does it. She kind of just quietly does her job. But what she's been able to do, for this team in the absence of those guys that you see over there on crutches and embraces and, all the different things has been incredible. She's put this team on her back. We've asked her to not just score, but to be a playmaker.
Now compare that energy to the reaction after Caitlin Clark caught fire with multiple fourth-quarter threes and helped rally the team offensively. Instead of spotlighting Clark individually, the response shifted toward the collective effort. That's where fans believe the disconnect exists. And perception matters in sports psychology. Look historically at stars like Stephen Curry or Sabrina Ionescu. Their coaching staffs publicly empowered them constantly. Every big performance became fuel for confidence. Every breakout moment reinforced identity, because superstar athletes often mirror the confidence their organizations project onto them. If fans feel Caitlin Clark is being treated cautiously while another player receives emotional endorsement, they'll interpret it as resistance. And whether that interpretation is fair or not, it becomes reality once the fanbase fully buys into it. That's why this story keeps growing, not because of one quote, but because every new interview now gets analyzed frame by frame. The financial side of this story may be even bigger than basketball. Caitlin Clark changed the economics of the WNBA almost overnight. Television ratings surged, ticket demand exploded, merchandise sales skyrocketed. Road arenas started selling out just to host Indiana Fever games. That level of influence changes organizational expectations immediately. And when a player becomes that valuable financially, fans expect the franchise to fully center around them. That's why these comments created such a strong reaction online. Because supporters believe the Fever should be publicly building around Clark the same way the Indiana Fever once built around franchise legends in previous eras. But instead, many fans now believe there are two competing identities inside the organization: the veteran loyalty era and the Caitlin Clark superstar era. That tension becomes even more complicated when players themselves openly discuss feeling valued differently by certain coaches.
I've had 5 coaches in 8 years. I've been on, the worst, record teams here in Indiana Fever. So I know where my career started at. I know what I've kind of had to go through to kind of be in this position. I've never had a coach that poured into me respectfully like Steph has. I go where I'm valued, and I've never really felt that as a pro. And so for the first time in my career, I really feel like I have someone that values what I bring.
That clip explains everything about why this relationship became so strong publicly. Kelsey Mitchell clearly feels emotionally supported by Stephanie White, and honestly, that's not a bad thing. Coaches should empower players, but in professional sports, once one relationship becomes publicly elevated, every other relationship gets compared against it. Then came the Caitlin Clark comments after her explosive performance.
From Unrivaled and just
your team had in the fourth quarter, particularly when it comes to Caitlin. I think she made 5 threes in that fourth quarter, more than our first 2 games combined. So just your thoughts on the resilience from her.
I thought our whole group showed resilience, in that rally. We showed the ability to make tough shots. We had some really good.
The whole group? We just watched video of you talking about Kelsey Mitchell willing the team in the fourth quarter and in the second half after going 0 for 7 and scoring 4 points in the first half of a game last season.
That contrast became the turning point for many fans, because whether intentional or not, the emotional energy felt completely different. And now the Fever front office faces a massive challenge moving forward. If this team wins, the controversy quiets down. But if Indiana struggles while Caitlin Clark continues carrying historic expectations, every interview, every substitution, every late-game possession, and every coaching decision will become national debate material. That's the pressure of coaching the biggest star women's basketball has seen in years. At the end of the day, this controversy isn't really about one quote or one interview. It's about trust. Fans want to believe the Indiana Fever are fully committed to maximizing Caitlin Clark's greatness. And right now, a growing portion of the audience believes the messaging coming from Stephanie White tells a different story. Maybe it's favoritism, maybe it's misunderstanding, or maybe this entire situation has been magnified by the unbelievable spotlight surrounding Caitlin Clark. But one thing is undeniable. The pressure inside Indiana is rising fast, and if the Fever don't start winning consistently, this debate is only going to get louder. So now the question becomes, did fans uncover a real agenda inside the organization, or are people overreacting to normal coach-player relationships?